At the time this happened, I was a 21-year-old female. I lived in a larger, small city in the Midwest. At the time, I had no car and only a bicycle. I hardly had enough money for a public bus. I worked at a retail battery lighting and repair store. I worked full-time as well, and only lived a little over a mile from my job. Since I was a woman in a male-dominated field, I was often used to targeted abuse from men who thought they knew better. Many times I stood my ground and flaunted my knowledge in subjects these people couldn't seem to grasp. Because of my willingness to learn and my close proximity to work, I often worked all sorts of hours, mostly all by myself as well. This time I wasn't the person closing and had a coworker named Joey. They came in for a part-time shift after they wrapped up classes at the local college. We had quite a close friendship, honestly, and often stood up for one another. We stepped in when we were flustered as well, or needed to go to the bathroom in the back or whatever. Joey received a phone call for a possible repair on a smartphone, and he wasn't 100% sure if we even could repair it. He asked the young female caller to stop by for a consult. She quickly agreed and said she would stop by around 5:30. This was a night I was supposed to get done at 6 p.m. and catch the bus at 6:12. It was a windy, drizzly, early fall night. I remember this because I had my bike with me, and it became my anchor that night. A little before 6 p.m., this frantic, terrified, screaming and crying 19 to 20-year-old woman came rushing into our tiny shop. I was at the counter switching out aging price tags and doing general store maintenance. I looked at her confused and asked her what was wrong. She looked me deep in the eyes, asking if Joey was here. At the time, he was using our tiny bathroom in the back, so I had to step in and help out. I told her he was currently busy and that I was willing to help her. She handed me her smashed, cheap phone very timidly. My customer service skills could not prepare me for what she was going to say next. She quietly whispered to me that her boyfriend, who was out in his red mini truck in the small front parking lot, had gotten angry and smashed her phone when she tried to call her sister that afternoon. I took the backing off and tried to research the model for any possible screen repair. No results found. I tried to hand her back the destroyed phone, and she pushed it back into my hands with a pleading look. Then the honking commenced. It was drizzling outside, so our front glass was covered in beaded drops and was slightly fogged over. I couldn't see who was out there. I told her again I couldn't really do anything to help, and for her to try our cell phone repair competitor just down the road. The tears really started to flow now. I was freaked out. She kept throwing glances behind her, and the honking would not stop. I was angry at this point. I myself was in a domestic abuse situation at the time, and I knew exactly what this girl was experiencing. I broke my stare with her and tried to look in our system a second time for a replacement. Nothing once again. I looked up from our computer to see a shadowy figure of a young man pacing in front of the store. I was just happy the honking had stopped, but I was increasingly shaken up. My whole body was fearful now. I whispered across the counter if she needed me to call 911. She slammed her hands down and said I couldn't do that. She begged me not to. At this point, Joey came out and asked what was going on. He thought it was one of those situations where we had an elderly, lazy, or disabled customer honking their horns for us to pick up something heavy from their car. The looks on our faces, though, he knew something bad was happening. The young man stopped pacing outside and began to slam on our front door. Joey took the girl's phone from my hands and told me to go in the back and lock the back employee-only doors. I did what I was told. I grabbed my bag, my bike, and my jacket. I looked at the clock in the back. It read 6:14. I spent 15 minutes back there with this girl, both of us feeling like trapped animals. Joey did bodybuilding during his free time. He was a gentle, non-confronting sort, but a very stocky Asian guy. I was a short, obese lady that would respond in either of two ways to any situation, like a complete doormat or absolutely furious and raging. I knew I couldn't fight this person, and neither could Joey. Not because of physical reasons. We'd lose our jobs in an instant. We didn't know what to do here. The guy threw the door open. He had this manic, hateful look about him. A total predator he was. He was very slim, early to mid-20s, and was soaked by the rain. He took the broken phone off the counter and took the girl with him as well. He hurled insults at us, and I gave the girl a pitying look. He slammed the door shut, and both Joey and I stood in absolute silence. He snapped out of it and ran to the front door and locked it. I told Joey to call our manager from our store landline and stood around while he did so. I noticed that now the guy had moved his truck to directly in front of our door. He was watching us as we were on the phone with our manager. I had to leave to get home. The last possible bus came at 6:42. I couldn't pedal my way home in this weather. Plus all of the circumstances that had just occurred. The time was around 6:18. I just needed to cross the busy highway and down the sidewalk by 1/8 of a mile to get to the nearest bus stop. Joey, the guy, and I played a waiting game here. It was 6:23 when that dickhead finally drove away. I told Joey I would leave at 6:25 so I could arrive safely. Joey opened the front door, and I threw myself on top of my bike. I pedaled harder than I could ever imagine. Our store was in an industrial shopping area at the very edge of town. We worked next to a sub shop as well. It started to downpour. As I tried to pull out of our parking lot straddling my bicycle, I caught a glimpse of a red truck looping around the sub shop. The highway had dual lanes each way. I had to play real-life Frogger if I wanted to make it to my destination in one piece. There were a few cars that slowed down for me as I hauled ass to the other side of the road. I jumped off my bike and threw it on top of the curb. I promptly hopped back on and tried to pedal as quickly as I could. My front wheel was stuck in the grassy strip, and my right foot kept slipping off the pedals. My shin struck against them, and I had to act quickly. I grabbed the frame of my bike and simply jogged to the bus stop. The red truck pulled into the parking lot which I had just passed. They turned around and went out through the entrance across from the sub shop. They took the lane closest to me. They went at a crawl and turned at the red light so they could come back around to me. There were 3 ways to get in. One left, one in the center, and the other on the far right next to the grocery store. I stuck to the sidewalk since it felt safer, and there were people around. The truck patrolled around the area, stalking me like its prey. I felt cold, sore, and cornered. There were a couple of cars that pulled into the left entrance of the lot, causing the truck to not be able to come back around again. I almost collapsed when I reached the shitty small bus stop. I felt my phone buzz. I saw it was Joey, so I rested my bike on my person to answer the call. Joey told me he was watching, and even though he had an elderly couple in the store that he was helping, that he wouldn't allow that man to hurt me. The red truck began to loop around and around the bus station. I saw the bus pull up early at 6:39, and I couldn't be happier. I knew the driver since I used the buses to get around town, errand shopping, and to get to and from work. I had my stupid fucking bike to worry about, though. I hung up with Joey, putting my phone in my jacket pocket. I strapped my bike in the rack that was in front of the bus. I struggled since I was shaking, and my bike was slick from the rain. I got on the bus. I saw the truck had taken a left at the center entrance of the lot. I could finally let my guard down. I sat in front of the bus and my hands shook. I was trying to get out the fare. The driver said it was okay, and I could just take my time relaxing. I kept my backpack on and pulled my damp phone out. I called Joey and let him know I was fine. In under 15 minutes, I made it to my apartment safe and deeply disturbed. I took my bike in so it wouldn't draw any attention to where I lived. All of this gave me an idea to leave my own domestic abuse situation a few months later when COVID took the world by storm. To this day, I wonder about that girl. I hope somebody more daring and stronger than me called the cops on her abuser. Back when I was around 17 or 18, I would go out to parties with my friend at night. It was my best friend at the time, Ivan, and his cousin Caesar that would invite me out this fateful night. I'd been talking to a friend of Ivan on Facebook about meeting each other. Since I hadn't had many experiences with girls, I thought it was now or never. This girl had a birthday party that day and invited us all to join her. I took a bath, got ready, and my friends pulled up for me in a small car. It was an Atos that was really popular in Mexico in the early thousands. It was small and really good at saving gas, not too expensive either, so the perfect car for a college student. I said bye to my mom and hopped in. We went to go buy beer for the night and a pack of smokes for everyone as well. Back then, I would smoke quite a lot. I still cringe just thinking about it, but it was an early college thing, I suppose. My friend told us he had been in contact with this one girl on Facebook, and she decided to come to the party with us tonight. We were all impressed and happy for him. We pulled up to her house and parked near a park to wait for her. I remember a group of thugs walking around the park, but since they seemed our age, we weren't too weirded out. My friend called her to come out, and my friend Caesar stepped out for a smoke. I was sitting in the back, not wanting to come out because of those guys outside. Things seemed to be asking for trouble though. They began to argue about something really dumb with Caesar. My friend Ivan told me to step out just to have his back, in case anything went down. I'm not particularly strong myself, but I am really tall. With a winter coat, I tried my best to appear tough enough for them to think twice. I lit a cigarette and pretended to be macho. I looked at a guy and laughed. Somehow it worked, and they just left. We went to the party and had a great time together. I made out all night with the girl I was talking to. Later though, I found out she'd kissed pretty much every guy that was there before me. Nevertheless, I was still grateful for the opportunity. As we headed back to the house of my friend's date, she seemed extremely quiet. I knew they had hit it off quite a bit during the party, but now she looked really stiff, scared even. My bud and I were riding in the back to let them have the front to themselves, but all she was doing was nervously looking at her phone. When we arrived, she wanted to hop out right away. My friend, trying to score some points, said, "Wait, I'll walk you in." She did not like this. She said to just leave. We were a bit buzzed in the back and wanted to have a smoke, so we all stepped outside anyway and watched them walk up to her door. I remember laughing about something with my friend when the mood suddenly became very dark. The girl began to scream, "Go now! Get out of here!" A car pulled out nearly in front of us. People with bats and various weapons got out so fast I can barely remember how I got back into the seat. The girl said something along the lines of to leave us alone and held my friend while a bunch of dudes got out. Ivan got into the driver's seat and started the car. Thankfully, it started right up without trouble. A big bottle of liquor slammed into the windshield, cracking the top corner. I saw some guys come from the right side of the car where we were standing. I quickly moved over to the other side to let my friend have an easy way into the back seat. As I turned the corner, I saw this massive-looking guy come right up to the door. I barely had time to close it and pulled the lock down. The man began to punch my window. My other friend wasn't so lucky. He got hit in the head before he made it back to the car. Couldn't even close the door because some guy was grabbing his leg. All of this happened in the span of 6 seconds, mind you. I acted out of instinct. Thankfully, we all got in. My friend slammed on the gas while zigzagging in case they attempted to shoot at us. We were all scared shitless and wondered just what the hell was happening. We got back to our neighborhood, and my friends were fuming. Both of them knew their way around a fight and could hold their own. I, on the other hand, have never been in a fight to this very day. Thankfully, I still had some cash left. I told them we should go buy some illegal beer at midnight and tried my best to calm them down and convince them not to just go back there. Caesar was so pissed he'd even woken up a dude in the middle of the night with a phone call, asking the man to show up to a group fight. After a few beers and a lot of talking, I convinced them it was not worth it and to just let the night end. I got home and my parents never found out about any of this. The next few days, my friend Ivan called me and told me the girl's ex-boyfriend was actually a gang member, a gang known for beating the hell out of people and dropping them in water canals around the city. My heart dropped out of my chest. We had been seconds away from getting beat down, or maybe killed by a bunch of thugs for a damn date, if it wasn't for our quick reaction, her backing them up a bit, and something outside this realm working for us. We might not have made it away. To this day, I still stay awake at nights, thinking of how fast and out of nowhere situations like this can present themselves in your life. How many times have we narrowly avoided critical danger? All I can say is trust your gut and your instincts in the end. It all happens so fast, that's all you really have. This story happened back in the year 2015. It was around 8 p.m. and it was summertime, so at the time it was just getting dark. I live in a town where crime almost never happens. It's a very safe rural area with very few people as well. Here, all the shops close early, so that night I went shopping around 7:40. Everything was completely quiet. I didn't have enough money to pay in the moment. I asked them to save the items for me. When I got home, I grabbed the money out to take back to pay the store. I was listening to some music. I had bought new headphones and was trying them out. I was walking 2 blocks from my house when a motorcycle with 2 men came out of nowhere. The man behind got out and grabbed a gun. He pointed it right at my head and started yelling at me to give him my things. I was paralyzed. In an absolutely absurd moment, I screamed out no. The man again yelled at me to give him my cell phone. He screamed, "Give me everything!" I squeezed my cell phone and headphones and yelled, "No, these are my things!" over and over again. The whole time, a gun was pointed at my face from a meter away. When the guy with the gun saw I wouldn't give them anything, he fired. I saw very clearly how he pulled the trigger on the gun. He got on the motorcycle with the other man, and they left at full speed. Somehow, I didn't get shot though. I don't know if it was a fake gun or if it jammed or if it didn't have bullets in it or what. I don't know anything. It was really dark. It was one of the most terrifying experiences I ever had. As soon as they left, I ran to the store where I was going at first. I arrived crying and shaking. It was hard for me to even speak. I asked for help, and they called my mom, who came to pick me up in a taxi. I didn't want to walk home, even though it was only 4 streets away. That was the first and last time I experienced a robbery attempt. It was the most damn stressful situation I've ever been through though. I don't know how to describe the absolute panic I felt when I saw the barrel of a gun in front of my eyes. All that for a cheap fucking cell phone and some headphones. They didn't give a shit about a girl's life. They slapped that gun right in my face. I wish no one has to go through this, much less children. I was lucky, but many are not, especially in the city nearby my town, where this happens quite frequently. Last year, I was going out for drinks with my friends. Since I had to go to uni the next day, I only stayed until around midnight. My boyfriend had promised to pick me up and go home with me because I didn't like to take the subway alone at night. Since I was pretty drunk by then though, I took too long walking out of the pub. Unfortunately, we had to wait for the night bus with multiple stops, since the subway closed on weekdays at night. For context, my boyfriend and I don't live together, but we do live very close to each other, around 20 minutes of walking distance. Both areas are pretty shitty. He lives near a train station where many crackheads, homeless, and sketchy people abound, and I live in a cheap, bad district with a high crime rate. My building has 2 entrances on 2 different streets because it's a corner building, one leading to a patio and then to the apartment building and its doors. I usually use the entrance door that's nearer to the subway though, and on the side of my apartment. We had to take 2 buses to go home. One drove us to the train station, the next one from the train station to my apartment. After getting out of the first bus, we realized we would have to wait around 20 minutes or something for the second one to come. Since I really had to sleep now, and I had class the next day, I didn't want to stay here for that long. My boyfriend also didn't want to wait to see me, so he persuaded me to walk instead of taking the bus, which sober me would have never done. Since I was drunk though, I didn't really care how I got home. We started to walk home and passed a few sketchy people, mostly people selling drugs or whatever, but nothing too bad. The instant I saw this guy walking our direction though, I got a bad feeling. I told my boyfriend I wanted to go to the other side of the street because I didn't want to go anywhere near this guy. Suddenly though, the guy called out as if he wanted to ask us something. We ignored him and continued to walk. He got louder and louder until he started to yell and scream. I could see from the corner of my eye he was gaining on us. I whispered for my boyfriend to run. I grabbed his hand and ran the fastest I could while the man began to chase us. We ran and ran and ran, then made a turn to the right and hid. It seemed like the man was gone at first. I took my keys out, and we started running toward my building, taking the other entrance I normally didn't use. As I was struggling to open the door, my boyfriend started to panic. He threw me inside the patio and closed the door aggressively behind him, then pushed me into the building. He explained later that the guy had come running from the other side of the street, meaning he'd taken a shortcut. He probably thought we were going to the bus stop instead. If we had taken the other entrance, he would have clearly beaten us there. Standing there in shock, we unfortunately did not call the police, which I do regret. I stopped going out for drinks and clubbing for half a year after this, and slept at my boyfriend's place for 2 weeks. I was scared the guy would come back. I think the worst thing about this guy really wanted to get us for some reason. I still want to know why he chased us for so long. 2 weeks later, a girl a few streets away was reared in front of her building by a guy who chased her home. I wonder if it was that very same guy, or if it was just a sad coincidence.